I've been considering when's the right time to upgrade my PC, and I think it's now. This was my old system, and it's by no means a weak PC. It's a 5800X 3D and a 3080 Ti, and it's served me really well over the last 4 years or so. I wish I could have, to be honest, gotten a 3080 instead of a 3080 Ti, but I got that one at MSRP, so a bit like today's times, nothing's really changed. There were a few catalysts for me in wanting to upgrade this PC. The first is the amount of creators I've seen over the past however many years, creating smaller and smaller but more and more powerful builds. And the idea of having a more powerful PC in a smaller physical footprint really appealed to me. Another catalyst was actually the fact that I've been playing some of the newest games coming out in terms of esports, say Marvel Rivals for example, and the system seemingly quite struggled even at low settings. At 1440p I'm only getting about 112 FPS, and it doesn't really go up at 1080p to only 138. So I feel if I can't even get 144Hz out of my 360Hz monitor, then there's an issue. So I've got more comparisons for later, but why don't we go have a look at the new PC? I did initially write a script going through each component, and whilst I may do that in a later video, I figured 10 minutes of me rambling on about each component, which essentially boils down to just trying to justify the cost I spent, probably not the best watch. So instead I want to show you this beauty. I will give a very just brief rundown. The specs I'll list on the screen, and they're plenty for both now and in the future. I will kind of say the justification of getting a 5080 because it wasn't my intention. I had full intention of getting an RX 9070 XT when they came out, but on release day there was just no availability for anyone that seemingly wasn't a bot. So I completely missed out. The website I was using just crashed, took my order off when I was on the payment page, and I just didn't get the stock back. So I missed out, I'm afraid. Maybe when I'm a big enough content creator, I can just ask for one and hopefully get one. That will save me a lot of trouble, I think. So I ended up getting a 5080 because it was in stock and it's not too far off MSRP. It's a PNY card, they're good cards, and importantly for me, in that case, it's not too massive. It fits really well, but still provides plenty of adequate cooling. So, importantly, I guess, if you're watching this video and you have specs that were similar to mine, whether it actually be a 5800X 3D and a 3080 Ti, I'd be surprised, but I'm sure they're out there. It's the question of, well, is it worth upgrading? And I would probably answer by going, if you're playing games like Apex, Valorant, in CS2, Rainbow Six, unless you have spent like £1,000 or $1,000 on a 480Hz OLED monitor, just don't bother. So looking at both 1080p and 1440p, I've looked at some esports titles, and I've done them in the sense of the esports settings. So everything is down to the lowest unless it actually gives a conceivable competitive advantage. The easiest example of that is field of view, or in the case of like CS2, you ramp up the shadows and they're actually then visible throughout the map, and they can sometimes give an advantage. Unfortunately, when it came to Valorant, one of the games I tested, the CSV files from my old computer were just completely corrupted. I couldn't read them at all. Nothing was usable. So I've had to throw them away. So at 1080p, you kind of see increases from 36 all the way to a ridiculous 115% from Marvel Rivals. Now, at some point, I need to go back and redo those figures because that much of a jump just doesn't make sense. So at some point, I need to review that. But unfortunately, the PSU that I was using, I'm now currently using. So it's not just a case of being able to just switch that back on and redo the tests, I'm afraid. At 1440p, it's a similar story with actually far less of a range. So you go from anywhere from 45% to nearly 80% depending on the game. So I think I can say, yes, of course there's a performance increase. Anywhere from 66 to 70% depending on 1080p or 1440. But I can also then confidently say, unless you're at a pro level playing on a LAN stage, it's not going to make more than a 1% difference to your wins or losses. If you're playing more heavy duty games, single player mainly, where the focus is more on graphics, then of course it makes more sense. But if you're at the esports style of gaming, save your money. That being said, if you're coming from an older generation of card, and I mean that as in the 1060s, the 1660s, or your RX, 580, or your RX, whatever they're called, like 5600 XT or whatever, then it might be viable as an upgrade path. Those cards are still incredibly popular for the Steam hardware survey, so there's lots of you out there running them. However, if the card is serving you fine and it's hitting frame rates that are playable, do you really need to upgrade? Do you really need to spend hundreds? And I mean, for us at the moment, let alone those in America with the tariff situations, it's hundreds and hundreds of pounds to upgrade. And all of that to not necessarily actually transform you as a player more than anything else would, such as, good sleep, aim training, VOD reviewing. All of those would probably have more of an impact than just whacking in a new GPU. But on that rather anticlimactic note, that's kind of all for me, folks. I am glad I spent the money on this computer. I'm really pleased with the way it looks. I love the fact that it fits the aesthetic of the room and my desk and my setup. That's great. And I love the fact that it is now picking up a smaller physical footprint. That's one of my goals and I achieved it. So at the end of the day, I am happy about that. However, for those watching, if you are on any sort of a budget, I just wouldn't spend this much money unless you really, really want to, or you really, really need to. But that's all for me today, folks. Thank you so much for watching. I know I said I would make a new video sooner than a month, and it's actually been later than a month, so I apologise, but new content is coming. I've just been really busy, so I do apologise. But if you like this video, please feel free to drop it a like and subscribe to the channel. That really helps out endlessly. Thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Much love. Goodbye.